Okay, so this is Pablo from the FAB with Dave, our chairman. We're at the lovely sunny Walton Hall Park with Everton women currently beating Bristol City 1-0 in the background. So fingers crossed that stays the same. But yeah, Dave, we just wanted to have a bit of a catch up about obviously the situation from Friday. And where the FAB stands on things. We put out our statement on Friday evening after speaking to the club on Friday afternoon. So yeah, just wanted to have a bit of a chat about things really. So how are you feeling about it now a couple of days later?
Well, I'm feeling like an extraordinary bikers sitting here in inclement weather.
Yeah.
The other thing, I think most people I've spoken to, you can eat with most fellow Blues with how are you? Which we probably shouldn't do, because we know the exact answer that we're going to get. I'm still angry, I'm still frustrated, I'm still totally disillusioned with how the Premier League has came to the conclusion that it came to. I think most people who have had the pleasures, dare I say, of reading the 40-page documents will applaud Everton for admitting and being open and transparent. Clearly Everton Football Club has made a breach of Premier League rules, and whether it's 19.5 million or a penny over the £105 million limit, we're guilty as charged. We should be holding our hands up over that. However, should be accepting a 10-point deduction. Not ever in a million years.
No.
The sentencing is totally disproportionate with the crime.
Yeah.
I think I've said to lots of people, I feel like I've gone to court on a drunken disorderly charge and ended up getting a 4 years custodial sentence.
Yeah.
It's not fit for purpose. And I think one of the things, particularly myself personally, but the FAB as an organisation, have been advocating for quite some time now. The fan advisory boards up and down the length and breadth of the country are a relatively new thing, all part of the fan-led review. And one of the things that the fan-led review is advocating is for an independent regulator to come and oversee what's going on in football. I would be urging the government not just to be making announcements with all the pomp and ceremony and the King's speech, that in view of what's gone on over the last 48 hours, that they need to accelerate the process, and we need an independent regulator to come in as quickly as possible. Football can no longer be left to mark its own homework, and it's clearly demonstrated that it's not fit to govern itself.
Yeah, I think that was the key thing for me. When you look through that document, there's sections in there where you can see that the Premier League are sort of almost making it up as they go along, where the commissioner said to them, well, all right, we've got the facts of the case, what do you want us to do about it now? And they've said, well, in like 24th of August, I think it was, they've said, well, what we reckon is, and that's not a rule. You've got to remember that the Premier League clubs have signed up to rules. Yeah, the only rules that I'm aware of in the books is that you get 9 points for relegation. That's the only bit that's mentioned. So you've got a finger in the air of the Premier League saying, well, what we reckon it should be, based on what the ESL do, is we reckon it should be 6 points because you broke the rules, and then another point for every 5 million you went over the border. But the commission actually rejected that. They actually said, well, you can't bring that in now. And then their judgment, it pretty much fits to exactly that. In fact, they actually added another $500,000 on, because they've said we went over by 20 million because it's 6 plus 5. You know, it's 10 points. So they've said no, and then they've thingied it. So that's the bit that I think that the Everton's appeal should be focused on, the fact that it's completely arbitrary, and yet they've made it up as they've gone along, really.
And you're right on that. And I think, again, I think, given that we've worked closely with the Premier League for the last 5 transfer windows, that they've had to sign off everything we've done, and they've been in agreement with them. They've scrutinised the accounts. Now, for the accounting periods that we're talking about, let's totally forget and dismiss what was agreed or what they spoke about in August. We were charged with something that happened 3 or 4 years ago, and as the rule stood 3 or 4 years ago, this additional point's fine. for every 5 million you're over. It'd never even been discussed.
Yeah.
So it's bad enough that it isn't actually a rule or a regulation to what we've signed up at. And any sentence we should be given should be proportionate with the time the alleged offence or this misdemeanour took place.
Yeah.
So we should be looking at the rules and regulations that they were in 2019, not as how they may well like them to be in 2023 or 24.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because I say that was, even then it's only a suggestion. They're not even saying we've changed our rules now so that it's that. All they've said is, well, this is what we reckon it should be. This is what we think it should be, just to give you sort of finger in the air. And of course we had the thing that came out in the press a few months ago with the 12 points. That suddenly started getting bandied around, and I believe that did come out of the hearing. So again, that's not great that's been leaked out and that's come out of that the Premier League have asked for that.
But I'd have thought for any commission, any tribunal, any court case, before the court case would actually take place or the hearing would take place, that the rules and regulations would all be in place, they'd all be in situ, and you would know. It may well be the case watching the game this afternoon that a Bristol player gets sent off for violent conduct and gets a red card. Every single person in the stadium would know that misdemeanour of violent conduct would result in a 3-game ban. It's clear, it's concise, everyone knows what it's all about. This isn't the case. They've actually made it up as they've gone along, and they've actually amended it halfway through the process, and that's what's wrong, and it's an injustice. And as I said, it's clear in my own mind, is a 10-point deduction worse than a club going into administration and only losing 9 points? No one's been hurt, no one's been when Portsmouth got that 9-point deduction, there was businesses in and around the Portsmouth area and in the football family who were creditors, who were vast sums of money out of pocket. The Commission, and I'm pleased about the Commission has deliberated that they don't believe that Everton have actually gained any sporting advantage. I tell you what, there's a lot of clubs who'll be rubbing their hands with clay, that particularly down the lower end of the league table, happy that Everton have got a sporting disadvantage, that they've had 10 points deducted, which clearly gives them an advantage. They've opened a can of worms, the implications and the ramifications of what they've attempted to do will be far-reaching.
Yeah, it is, and I say it's where do we go from here, really? Because obviously we've got now the the club have told us that they're going to appeal, and that appeal will be getting put forward. For me, I personally think that I'm a bit wary of all the sort of whataboutery, the sort of what about Man City, what about Chelsea, stuff like that. For me, I'm fine with looking retrospectively and saying, well, things that have already been heard and said, well, they got these many points. You know, you look at the Tottenham one where they originally got 12 points, that got knocked down to 6, then eventually got knocked off altogether. So, I wouldn't say I'm hopeful that the appeal will be successful, because I was hopeful that we wouldn't get any, and the club told us. I think one of the other things to clarify is that I think the club went into this believing that they were within the rules when they first went in, and it was only through the course of the proceedings that they've sort of got to, all right, well, okay, then if you're not counting this and that and the other, and they took in hardly any of the mitigating circumstances, like the Ukraine war, and like the player that we had to have suspended and we lost money on over that. So I think it does seem very harsh from that point of view.
But I think the biggest single mitigating circumstance, to be honest with you, Pablo, is simple in my eyes. The biggest single mitigating circumstance is that every single person who had been involved in that breach is no longer at the club. The fans have been telling football and telling the football community, journalists, you name it, anyone and everyone, that we believe Everton Football Club, and I think instantly to the Everton man fit to run a bath. Well, that's all come home to roost. It's been totally vindicated of everything that we've been saying over the last 3 or 4 years. The people responsible for making them decisions, the people who are responsible for that misdemeanour, are no longer at the club. The 3 directors, the designs, Bill Kenwright has now passed away. The only link with that regime is Farhad Moshiri. Now my understanding is as because it was told by 7-7 that he'd sold his share to 777 in September.
Yeah.
So none of the people who are responsible for the decision-making process that got us into that mess are no longer at the club. So they're actually punishing people who weren't even there at the time.
Yeah.
I think one of the things I'd be keen to stress as well, that the wider football community, they need to stop looking upon this as an Everton issue. It's a football issue. I don't particularly buy into or subscribe to the fact that Man City and Chelsea are the enemy. They're not. We need to get Man City, we need Chelsea to get on board with us. We need them, because if we've got that on one charge, I dread to think what they're potentially facing. There's lots of other clubs who are sailing quite close to the wind, shall we say, who potentially could go down the same or similar route as us. I would urge Everton's mitigating circumstances to be, look, we've admitted that we've done it. The people who are responsible for doing it are no longer here. We need to start with a close. The rule was quite clear. It was a 6-point deduction for breaking that rule. We take the 6 points, you give us them 4 points back. And hopefully ever the optimist, I'm not glass half full. I hope by the end of the season that we're able to give some other clubs additional points, because I see a successful future for a united, galvanised fan base solidly behind the club.
Yeah, because you can't, as you say, you can't just make it up as you go along, because that's completely arbitrary. The clubs don't know where the boundaries lie and then what the punishments for those boundaries are. Because again, you said about what the Commission said about the thing. The Commission made it very clear that this was not intentional. We have not deliberately tried to finagle things or stuff like that. It's just bad practice. It's just literally the thing of it. I think that you mentioned the sporting advantage. I think my understanding of that, I think that's a little bit less clear. I think a lot of people are saying that they didn't say there was a sporting advantage, but I think the wording of it is a little bit.
I would actually say we had a sporting disadvantage with the way we wasted the money, and maybe they should consider giving us.
Well, the thing is as well.
Points.
Well, I have seen as well. I think there was an article in one of the papers yesterday where they said about, we have been at a disadvantage because we've been living within their rules. So they've had fans moaning and moaning and moaning at them, and yet they have said, well, listen, we can't spend the money on this and that because we're within these rules now. So they've tried their best for the last 2 seasons and the last 5 or 6 transfer windows to actually stay within those restrictions. Richarlison got sold on the 30th of June to try to stay within those restrictions. And again, one of the mitigating circumstances we quote was we lost 20 million because of that. Because if we hadn't had to do that, then we could have gone out to other clubs, we could have had more time to actually get him. But because of their rules to say you've got to have your books in order by the 30th, that was what that thing. And again, the mitigating circumstances.
The fans have lived the nightmare of transfer windows, haven't we? Looking for Jim White in his yellow tie, waiting for the door to close, because all we had to look forward to was we knew one of our better players was going out rather than a better player was coming in. So we've lived within them constraints. But I think we could talk about this all day, and being a football fan, I'm keen to start watching a little bit of the game. But I think one of the things we need to be getting out there as a FAB is that we ain't sitting back and allowing this to go on. We've got a number of things on the go, and one of the things that we're looking to do is to call a meeting on Wednesday night in the Winslow at 6:30, and details will be going out via our social media. And I would urge any Evertonian who's got concerns about the direction of travel that we're going in, we need to be united, we need to be disciplined, we all need to be singing off the one hymn sheet. So I'd urge people to get along to the meeting on Wednesday night.
Okay. Well, that's happening this Wednesday. We'll put the details on the screen so that people can get the information about that. Obviously, you can check out the FAB on all our social media as well. We've also got the drop-in sessions that we're doing before home matches now as well. So we'll be in St Luke's before.
But will the airy bikers be there?
I don't know about that bit, but yeah, we'll be in there. We'll be in the St Luke's downstairs before the Man United game next Sunday as well. But yeah, if you can make it to the Winslow 6:30, then Blues, get yourselves down there, and yeah, we'll have a chat and see what we can do with it. So. Right,
nice
cheers for that, Dave.
Cheers, mate.
All right, that's us out.